Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown. From the...
We ain't play my man, I swear to God. I don't know what we gonna do to him, but we gonna lynch his ass if he ever come here. When they come play them wizards up there, we gonna lynch his ass. If a young buck, I like you. I like you, my man, and everything. That nigga game that keep his mouth shut. Don't you stop that bullshit, man. Leave that man alone, man. That man don't bother you. That man got kids, man. He can't afford to go back and forth with you, man. You can stand that shit, man. You don't take care of your kids, man. You feel me? You can love your kids, but you don't take care of them. What we gonna do here right now? This is what we gonna do. Son, Jay, come in. We gonna try to make it. Either we gonna get the fuck out the ghetto, or we gonna make it in the ghetto, man. And the only way we gonna do it is to stick together, you feel me? Yeah. But you ain't gonna stop, so I'm gonna stop like that. You ain't gonna stop. You ain't gonna stop. You ain't gonna stop. Ask him what he did with his penny. Who? What he did with his bronze medal they gave him.
Why you ain't wear it, yo?
You just told me you threw that motherfucker overseas.
Huh?
Late somewhere. So I said, he said, I would all y'all spend my whole summer chasing a big penny. How is he gonna tell a bitch he worth $100 million and he chased a big penny?
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to Murderland. Baltimore. West Baltimore to be exact. Now, before we get into who we gonna be covering, all my Maryland niggas get in the comment box, Baltimore, because it's always in the field when we hear. Now, this story is going to take place circa the early 2000s, and the saga is going to run on up into 2016. But before we get there, if anybody remember the early 2000s, and definitely Baltimore in the early 2000s, that was right around the time when the whole stop snitching shit was going on. It was almost like a campaign. And to be honest, from my point of view, where I was standing, Baltimore was almost like the headquarters for the Stop Snitching campaign. And shout out to my nigga Skinny Suge. He is almost one of the godfathers of the Stop Snitching campaign, because in today's age, man, niggas let a rat go number one on Billboard. Now, y'all niggas let that shit hit home, my nigga. Niggas let a rat nigga hit number one on Billboard. And he snitched on the Mobb when he was not even Mobb. That shit is a whole nother fucking story. But yeah, not only that, they got police doing interviewing rappers, incriminating themselves. They got niggas putting themselves on the internet doing criminal activities, incriminating themselves. So it's just a whole, man, if a nigga would have told me back in 2000 that in 2020, man, niggas, it's going to be a whole different world, man. Snitches going to be able to come home, walk the blocks where they snitched on people, walked the blocks where they killed their homeboys. I would have not believed that shit. I probably would have said, man, take me off this bitch at that time, for real. But it just, man, that's a whole nother world, man. So, but like I said, from my point of view, Baltimore was like the headquarters. There's a guy named Skinny Suge. He was on the front lines, taking a lot of hits because corporate America and white America did not like the Stop Snitching campaign, even though the police have the badge, the code of the badge, or whatever the fuck you want to call that shit, and they have secret societies, and they have all of this shit, but they do not want black people snitching on each other. That shit is outrageous. But that's a whole nother story, man. Niggas do what niggas gonna do. So back to Skinny Suge. He released a series of DVDs. One of the DVDs featured future NBA Hall of Famer Carmelo Anthony, who at that time was just starting out in the league. And pretty much it had a series of them. And they were pretty much aimed at people that were cooperating with the government, with the people that were testifying. And it came to find out down the line that the DVD had a lot to do, or was based around, a big time Baltimore drug dealer by the name of Tyree Stewart. Now, we got to go into Tyree Stewart because we can't tell Tyree Stewart's story without telling the person story that we're going to tell. Now, before I go any longer, before any ado, before y'all had to wait any longer, however y'all want to do this shit, today we're going to be covering a guy by the name of Solothal Itchy Man Thomas, and a little bit about Mr. Itchy Man. He's going to be a West Baltimore enforcer / hitman if you want to listen to the government. He's going to be a gunslinger if you on this mob type shit. And we pretty much can't tell his story without telling the story of Tyree Stewart, the guy that those Stop Snitching DVDs were aimed at. Now, Tyree Stewart was pretty much a drug dealer that operated in Baltimore, Maryland. I want to say really predominantly West Baltimore. He was a marijuana kingpin who authorities allege made upwards to $50 million. And what he was doing was selling pounds of Arizona that he was copping from a New York supplier and reselling for around $2,000 in the Baltimore area. And at that time, that was going to be the high-grade weed that we come across every day these days. If my memory suits me right, it was just going to be regular weed that pretty much doesn't even exist anymore. And it was going to be this high next level potent weed, but it wasn't really different strands like sour and wedding cake and cereal milk and all the shit that's going around now. Now, Tyree Stewart ended up getting arrested somewhere around 2003 in late August. So he was running his $50 million weed operation in West Baltimore. He ended up getting caught up. Based on all accounts from what I read, he instantly started cooperating with police. Now, you want to remember his name because he's going to be integral in the downfall of Itchy Man. So before I talk about how he plays a major part, we're going to talk a little bit about Itchy Man himself. Now, Mr. Thomas, who had at one time been charged with killing 2 people and attempting to kill a dozen more as part of his work as an enforcer for that large-scale drug operation. But time after time, he would win acquittals or plead guilty for lesser charges, receiving relatively short prison stints that we're about to get into. He was featured in Baltimore Sun 2002 series, Justice Undone, where they talk about some of his past success in the courtroom, and it was aided by incomplete investigations by police, oversight by prosecutors, and lack of cooperation by witnesses that was too afraid to speak out, according to the Baltimore Sun. Now, for someone to be that ruthless, that dangerous, that terroristic, you would think you would find news articles upon news articles about this, but just like he's a ghost to prosecutors, he's a ghost to the internet. A lot of people probably never even heard of him. So based on my research, his criminal career, it's hard to say, but according to the authorities, his criminal career started on March 14th, 1996, when a guy by the name of Alfonso Rogers took a blast from a sawed-off shotgun. Itchy Man was charged with attempted murder and 5 lesser charges. Then, 2 days later, on March 16th, 1996, a gun battle happened at the Shake and Bake Family Fun Center that left 7 people wounded. Thomas was charged with 7 counts of attempted murder and a few lesser charges. On September 1st, Terrell Moses, identified in court documents as the mother of Thomas's child, was assaulted. Thomas was charged for that. On September 14th, 1996, Antoine Lowe was shot 6 times while he was shooting dice. Thomas was charged with attempted murder and lesser crimes. A jury would end up acquitting him on October 8th, 1997, after a detective testified that Lowe identified Thomas as his assailant, but Lowe would recant his testimony. On November the 2nd, 1996, Raymond Fortune was robbed and severely beaten. Thomas was charged with attempted murder and lesser counts. He pled guilty on January 22nd, 1998 to robbery with a deadly weapon and a handgun and possession, and that plea deal netted him a 2.5-year prison sentence, and he pretty much had the remaining charges dropped from everything else in 1996 with that plea agreement that he set up with the government. Now, the charges would continue. On December 23rd of 1998, Ellis Johnson was selling drugs when he was robbed and shot 4 times. Thomas, a guy by the name of Samuel Warren, and Carlos Williams, they were charged with attempted murder and lesser counts. A jury acquitted them. In May of 2000, on December 23rd, 1998, 15 minutes after Ellis Johnson was shot, a guy by the name of Lewis Middleton was robbed and shot to death while he talked on a payphone with his mother. Itchy Man, Warren, and Williams were charged. A jury would later acquit them. In April of 2000, on January 22nd in 1999, Lakeisha Berry, who was also one of the mothers of his children, was beaten and she suffered a broken jaw. Thomas was charged with that. Prosecutors shelved that charge when Berry failed to appear for trial in August of 2000. On January the 28th, 1999, Terrell Moses, again, the mother of Thomas's child, was beaten unconscious, suffering a broken cheekbone. Thomas was charged with that. Prosecutors shelved that charge when Moses failed to appear for trial. In that same month of August 2000, on September 9th, 2000, Latrell Gross was shot 6 times and died. Thomas and a guy by the name of Alfonso Harper was charged. A jury acquitted them both in August of 2001. On August 20th, 2001, a man was shot during a robbery at the Royal Casino, and for that, Thomas was charged with attempted murder and lesser crimes. Now, I saw at one time where that trial was pending, along with 2 counts of illegal possession of a bulletproof vest, but by all accounts, or from my research, those charges were eventually dropped because those were not even the charges that ended up having him serving several life sentences plus 10 years. Now, if we're going to talk about the charges that would end up railroading him, we're going to have to talk about Tyree Stewart, who we talked about at the beginning, the alleged drug kingpin. Somewhere down the line, he would end up ratting on Itchy Man. Itchy Man would end up being indicted on charges that Stewart alleged that him and a guy by the name of Corey Smith paid Itchy Man and 2 other people $10,000 for a contract killing of a guy by the name of Terry Cheeks that happened on May 14th, 2012, in retaliation for the slaying 2 days earlier of one of Stewart's cohorts, Albert Alkey Dunbar, who was 22 years old. He ended up getting shot 15 times in that murder-for-hire plot. Stewart also testified that he hired Thomas to kill a guy by the name of Jesse Williams, who was a reformed drug dealer who had robbed his organization back in 1999. So that's going to really be the gist of that story. And I guess my take from that one is you can play in the streets, but you can't really play for too long. It's only but so many times, man. You can beat them however many times that you want to beat them, but they only got to beat you once, and they got you for the rest of the time being. Now, y'all get in the comment box. This one been a long time coming. I got a lot of requests on this, so we trying to do everyone coming through. It's your boy Popalot. Y'all follow me on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT, and we going to be back with more of that real trail spill. And y'all know what it is, man. It's the Mobb. Mobb. Ties.